may be become a naturalized American citizen. Any alien who is white and free. So that excludes people of Asian ancestry, that excludes people of black ancestry, and so forth. So race prejudice goes way back to that particular document in our legal documents back in 1790. Race prejudice also was based on the Chinese Exclusion Act of, I think it was 1888. And race prejudice was part of the Gentleman's Agreement of 1924, Gentleman's Agreement between the United States and Japan, which excluded immigrants from Japan from entering the United States. So race prejudice, is a very, very negative part of our American history. And if we can, I won't say that you'd be able to eliminate race prejudice. It became not pronounced, but became evident in the last election, which we just saw, President Obama being reelected. But there are certain elements in the opposition party that tried to get race prejudice to affect the outcome of this past election, but it didn't. Fortunately, it didn't work. So it's very, very important because race prejudice can not only affect our Constitution, but it can affect the livelihood and the economics of many people here in the United States.
So would you say that race prejudice could not be eliminated, but maybe minimized to a very low level?
Well, yeah, it can be minimized. You won't be able to eliminate it because it's an attitude that is sometimes nurtured by people who are prejudiced and seek to take advantage of the fact.
This is Sakamoto. What do you want your legacy to be, or like, what do you want people to remember you by?
That I'm a freedom fighter. No, I would like my legacy to be that that I was active in the community and doing things such as this, talking to student groups and various groups. A couple of years ago, I spoke to many, many book clubs because I think it was, this is 2012. I think it was 2009. The book club recommended reading a book about the internment of a family from Hood River, Oregon, the Yasui family. And because of that, which was about the internment and the incarceration, many of the book clubs requested Oregon Nick Endowment for a speaker to come and talk about internment. And that particular year, I talked 24 or 25 different occasions about the internment, which was quite a bit. And I would like my legacy to include my visits with groups such as this to talk about the United States Constitution and the internment of people of Japanese ancestry during World War II.
Mr. Sakamoto, what part of this work gives you the most satisfaction?
What part of what?
This work.
This work?
Yeah.
Well, when I feel that connected with the audience. And part of that feeling, it originates with kinds of questions that I get. And on different occasions, I've talked to as many as 60, 70 people. And then as few as 5 people. But each time I talk about my experiences, and hopefully the audience will take it to heart. One of the greatest audiences that I ever had was to a group of retired folks. They were probably in their 60s and 70s. There was only 5 of them. But I got such great questions and follow-up questions that I talked to this small group for about an hour and a half, in addition to my presentation, which was about 20 minutes. So if I can create a situation where they're mentally involved, then I figure I've been successful.
Mr. Sakamoto, I have like one follow-up question. Like, what was your childhood like growing up in like with all the prejudice and racism going on?
Well, as I mentioned, our parents were very, very sensitive to the race prejudice that we might encounter, and so they were always telling us to behave ourselves and put your best foot forward and don't bring disgrace upon yourself or to the family. And that was kind of like an umbrella that you lived with. And so, but it was a good umbrella because we had to be careful of our actions. Because if we misbehaved out in public, the public would see us and say, look at that Asian or Japanese person, and say negative things, and that would add to their race prejudice. However, in the old Portland, there was, well, in North Portland, for example, the Old Town area is referred to Old Town Chinatown. But that area, Old Town, was, before World War II, was not really Chinatown. It was more like Japantown. So there was a Japantown Northwest Portland, and there was a Japantown in Southwest Portland, where I grew up. And between the two Japantowns, there were all kinds of small businesses, hotels and barbershops and things like that. And most of the population of Japanese ancestry lived in those Japantown areas, because one of the reasons that immigrant Japanese and immigrant Chinese gathered together is because there's it was convenient for one thing, and easy to start small businesses, and you could serve one another, and it's for their kind of like mutual neighborhood protection, and that was a natural focus. A lot of different immigrant groups did the same thing, and they lived in similar neighborhoods. In Japantown, Southwest Portland, not only were there people of Japanese ancestry, but there were people of Chinese ancestry, and there were people of Jewish ancestry as well. So the minority groups kind of banded together, for one thing, because of in the poorer districts where we lived, then rent was cheaper, and we could help one another. in the neighborhood. So it was, there was a commonality in the neighborhood. So that we grew up in that kind of atmosphere, but then the change, well, the remarkable change was when we were incarcerated. And then of course, we all lived together then. Then in 1945, when the exclusion order was lifted, then a lot of people started returning to their former homes. And but not everybody came back to Portland, say, for example. When we went into the internment camps, then we were permitted to go relocate to other areas eastwards, but not to the west coast again. That was until 1945. So the environment changed, and then when I went into internment, incarceration, I was 15 years old, and then I finished high school in the Minidoka camp. Then, because the West Coast was still closed to people of Japanese ancestry, when I graduated from high school, which was 1944, then I went to college in Ohio. Then, when I got drafted, which was in 1946, I came back to the West Coast because by then, as I mentioned, 1945, we were able to return to the West Coast. So my growing up period I would say was completed when I left the internment camp to go to college, because I was 17 years old at that time, and going to college in Ohio. First I went to Cleveland, Ohio, then went to Delaware, Ohio, where the college was located. But that was a change in my growing up. I was independent and away from parental supervision. But I had grown up with good manners, I guess. So I was able to get along independently. So, and that was my growing up. Part of it under internment.
But just to clarify, so how old were you when you went into the internment camp?
15. I was a sophomore at the old Lincoln High School, which is now part of Portland State. And one of the really, really positive things that happened as a result of my being at the old Lincoln High School, when I was going to high school in Minidoka, the principal called me in one day and said that your Spanish teacher at the old Lincoln High School gave you full credit for that spring term. So he said, what that does, it gives you enough credits that you can graduate from high school a year earlier. So I graduated in 1944 instead of 1945, which was a good thing. Yeah, my Spanish teacher was Mrs. Seton from the old Lincoln High School. Yeah, getting that, because if I had to go that full year in 1945, then I wouldn't have had the experience of, I think I wouldn't have had the experience of going to college by myself in Ohio. And that was a remarkable maturing experience.
So, going more in depth with the visuals you have. So this is the map of the Idaho internment camp.
Yeah, I know.
And that is the notice that was posted
This
around
is the exclusion order, yeah.
Alright.
There's one more question. Like, where did they post that? Like,
Post this on telephone poles, on walls, they were